how Gangler started. Gangler started 32 years ago. I was 24 years old, from Chicago. Fisherman myself. My family and I used to go on trips, and my dad and I, of course, would go on trips up to Canada, and always interested in the business. And then I'd say about the early 80s, we started getting interested in fishing lodges, and in 84 we actually started touring around looking for one. In 85 we ended up buying our first one, which was on Reindeer Lake, and ended up being Reindeer Lake Lodge. A great place to start, great pike fishery. It was a great place to learn, and we built a heck of a nice lodge there. I was there for 5 years with my parents, and then I ended up moving up a little further north in Saskatchewan to Scott Lake, which was up on the border of Saskatchewan Northwest Territories. And both of those camps, we developed them from scratch. They basically had a few plywood shacks, and I think Reindeer had 2 log cabins, but there was nothing at those locations when we started. So different situations came about. We ended up wanting to stay in the business, stay in the industry. We really wanted to have the ideal, what we felt was the ideal lodge. And so consequently what we did was we had known about the North Seal region. There have been people trying to develop it since the 80s. An incredible fishery, diversity. It had all 4 species and really strong on all 4, which is very rare. Just had so much habitat. There was just so much untapped potential up here. So when we decided we wanted to stay in the business, but yet we wanted more, wanted to give our guests more, we decided to sell the 2 lodges and move up here. Now, moving up here, this was the largest privately financed endeavor of its time. No one else had done anything like this. We had no government money helping us, nothing. And we started from scratch, from coming up here and knocking down the first trees. I remember when my dad and I pulled up to the lakeshore here for the first time and looked at this site. We had a couple of our guides who had grown up in this area, a couple of our First Nations guides who'd been literally raised in this area, and the one still traps it, and still traps it till this day. And so when we pulled up here and walked around and looked at everything and the setup for the lodge, and we were like, this is perfect, absolutely perfect. So we were able to start from scratch and build what we felt was the perfect lodge. We've got access to the runway right next to the facility. We've got a protected bay in the back where we can park the float planes and keep our boats. And of course, this is Aganoff Lake acts as a hub. It's centrally located for the entire North Seal watershed, which is much more than Aganoff Lake. I mean, there's 12 river systems and over 100 lakes here. I mean, we still have lakes to this day that we haven't even put a boat into yet. We have lakes up here that we have boats on where we haven't fished them in 4 or 5 years. But that was the whole idea up here, was just to put so many boats up here, have so many lakes that they would rotate themselves, and we would maintain this fishery, this incredible fishery, and it would never get old. It would never get pounded. It would stay fresh and stay incredible. And by doing that with the main lodge and having all the fly-out lakes and different options, and by our outpost camps, when we took our outpost camps and designed them, we didn't make them too big. We made sure they had lots of water for each of them to sustain themselves. And here we are going on 20 years, and the fisheries are just as amazing as when we first came up here. Gangler's outpost camps. We're very proud of Gangler's outpost camps, and I think there's really a fundamental difference between us and other outfitters who offer outpost camps. Of course, number one, the fishery. Of course, the fisheries are amazing, and the camps are situated on large bodies of water that can easily sustain them. But we come from the background of being fishermen, and the one thing we've learned, there's different types of fishermen out there. There's main lodge fishermen who like an American planned trip, but then there's the outpost guys who want to be on their own. They want to kind of do their own thing. They like to run the boat. They like to fish. They're used to that. That's what they enjoy. So we don't try and push our fishermen into pegs that we've created. We try to listen to our fishermen and create destinations that cater to them and to what they want. And that's how our outpost camps have arisen. They're different. I mean, they're 5-star, they're completely modern, they have managers on the premises, they have ice machines, satellite Wi-Fi, the equipment's great. So they're giving you the great amenities that a guest wants, but at the same time, without feeling like he's got to go into a trip or a plan that he really doesn't want to be on. He doesn't have to be guided. He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to be marched to a certain time, certain schedule. Okay, the brief and short on our outpost camps. Mariah Lake, our mini lodge. Awesome fishery, awesome lake. The headwaters of the North Seal River system. It's got to have 3 portage lakes off of it. Got some really neat scenarios. It's one main building with a couple who run the camp, and then 4 separate cabins, each with its own complete private bath, and hold 2 people each. So Mariah Lake, the Mariah Lake Mini Lodge, where meals are prepared for you as part of it, is really kind of the best of both worlds of an outpost camp and with a little bit of a splash of the main lodge. Okay, Stevens-Nicklin. Stevens-Nicklin, well, if I had Stevens-Nicklin in Sanibel, Florida, I'd be a multi-millionaire, because it's got one of the greatest sand beaches you'll ever see. But Stevens-Nicklin is an awesome 4-species waterway. Stevens, the combination of Stevens and Nicklin lakes with the Laurel River running through them, is just an awesome fishery, and extends up into Dean Lake. We have 2 cabins there, big beautiful cabins in a perfect setting, completely modern, great managers. You cannot. Stevens-Nicklin is very, very popular. Bain Lake. Bain Lake is a neat fishery. Bain Lake's an interesting fishery because it's all 4 species. It has the most water out of all of our outpost camps. There's 5 river systems that merge into Bain Lake, and then extend. I mean, I think if you wanted to put a tachometer or whatever, or not tachometer, but if you wanted to see how far you're traveling, you could travel over 50 miles from point to point if you wanted to with Bain Lake. But Bain Lake, what's neat about Bain Lake is it has pike fishing, but it's got some of our deepest water, and it's one of those rare places where you can catch big trophy walleye and catch big trophy lake trout. And of course, it has great grayling fishing, excellent pike fishing. It's also got a portage lake up the Fjord Lake, which is on the Fergus River system, where there's some more awesome pike fishing. So Bain Lake's really a unique fishery, and I think for someone who wants to get into, I think in particular, if you wanted a combination of a shot at some really big walleye and some really big lake trout, Bain Lake would maybe be my top pick. Not that the others can't do it, but Bain Lake's got some really interesting water. Bernie Lake. Well, I love Bernie Lake. Bernie Lake's an awesome. Bernie Lake is basically a pike factory. It has pike and lake trout in it. There is a smattering of grayling and walleye there, but not enough to where we really push it in the fishery. But it's an incredible, it's basically a pike factory. It's got a lot of rock, a lot of reefs, it's got bays, it's got gigantic weed beds, and just produces big slob, thick northern pike. It's got a great lake trout fishery too. It doesn't have any real deep lake trout holes in it, but it's got spring holes which seem to hold the lake trout. And if you hit them at the right time, you can get yourself into a lot of lake trout, and we've caught a number of trophy lake trout there. The interesting thing about Bernie is Long Lake. Long Lake is an 18-mile long slice of the North Seal. It's got habitat which I consider quite different than Bernie. It gives you the best of both worlds when fishing up here, and very strong access to all 4 species. Long Lake in itself could have its own outpost camp, and we do have an overnight cabin there for people who want to explore it more. But Long Lake, combination of Long Lake and Bernie, is just an awesome combination of 2 different types of water. Clifton Lake is a little different for us. It's one single cabin instead of the others that have multi-cabins, but it's one single cabin. So one group takes it. There's a camp manager on site, satellite Wi-Fi. Clifton Lake is on the Johnson River system, which feeds up into the North Seal. An incredible 4-species lake, particularly incredible walleye fishing. The in-fishermen years ago when they were up there did hours and hours of footage there. But I don't think you can find a better spot to catch hundreds of 20 to 24-inch walleye that are solid. I mean, it's an amazing fishery. Of course, there's big pike that go with that. There's big lake trout, and there's some great grayling fishing there too. So Clifton is a unique setting, beautiful sandy beach tucked in a little bay, and if you like that, the singular cabin by yourself, you can't beat Clifton.